Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unfucking Your CX. I'm your host. You all know that, Zack Hamilton. What you're curious about is who's in the hot seat and what topic are we going to unfuck today? And I'm super excited by having Stefan to the show. And in the hot seat, he is a global voice, a top respected global voice when it comes to the CX community. And quite frankly, he's had so much experience and he likes to talk about the CX bullshit as well. So this should be a really fun conversation. Stefan, welcome to the hot seat.
Thanks for having me, Zach.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I know you and I just recently connected, but you were named one of the top, 50 CXers. I started reading into your profile. I saw the no CX bullshit, and I was like, I got to have this guy on. So, Stefan, look, man, before we jump into the conversation, set the scene. Where's this going to take place? Your favorite pub, restaurant? Are we going to go on a walk? Like, where's this thing happening for you?
Actually, the reality is this is in my home office, and you see it by some art behind me. Normally, typically, we do a webinar, you have a beautiful professional background, but right now I don't have that. It's actually a thing because I love to work from here, I have a lot of art around me and in the rest of the house. So it's my comfort zone, and where I like to lash out at those that are promulgating the CX bullshit out there.
Yeah, I love it. I love that blue abstract behind you.
Yeah, it's actually it's two.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
They go together, and yeah, again, my favorite art. And the dogs just came in, so don't be scared if somebody suddenly starts barking.
You might hear my dog as well. What kind of dog do you have?
Two English Springer Spaniels.
Oh yeah, full of energy.
Full of energy, bouncy, happy,
Yeah.
great little pups.
I think it's a great setting. I mean, you can see for me, right? I'm not a podcaster who has a fancy background or anything. Like I've also said, I'm here to unfuck podcasts because I think they've just gone in too much. But Stefan, you have been in this industry now and part of the discipline and leading it for several years. You've worked for and consulted for some of the top brands like Heineken and others. Like, what's one of those topics right now that's just bullshit and you want to uncringe? It's making you cringe and you want to unfuck.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, AI is one of those topics. However, there's already so many people talking about AI. That's not. The one thing that's been consistent bullshit for the past, I've been doing this for 22 years. Of those, I've been working in voice of the customer feedback management, etc. for 20. And for all of these 20 years, it's such utter bullshit how it's being handled in many, many ways. And the biggest one is that still, till today, in many companies, it's just a tick the box exercise. CEO wants something in his annual report or a number on his website. And okay, let's do some customer satisfaction surveys. And we don't do anything with it. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, was at a conference in Amsterdam where Fred Reichelt was the initiator of NPS, and also Maurice Fitzgerald, ex-head of CX for HP. Fred said, I know that most of the companies handle my baby, the NPS, wrong. And that's why I came back from retirement. And Maurice said that every couple of years he does a test where he answers 100 NPS surveys. You and I also get endless NPS surveys just to see how many companies close the loop. And on the last 2 rounds that he did that, on one of them, there was 0 closing of the loop. On the other one, 1. By, you can say that 100% or 99% of all companies do it wrong. And this is really what riles me up, where I get up on my Apple box on the corner of Regent's Park. Come on, people. If you do voice of the customer, do it to engage in a conversation, to learn what you can do better, to get back. Closing the loop is a specific NPS terminology, but it goes for anything. If you ask the customer to spend time with you, giving you feedback, you must spend time in coming back to them. That's my biggest bugbear in CX in general, because again, to me, voice of the customer feedback management is the foundation on which you have to build your whole customer experience strategy.
Yeah. Look, spot on. This one just, it pisses me off as well, right? like Fred, I will respond to surveys just because I'm really curious, right? I'm just curious of what that conversation will be. And Stefan, and probably the companies who just use it as a checkbox. If you listen to their earnings call, though, they're the most customer-centric organization that you know. But I'm gonna pull this back a minute, and what I'm going to pull back on it is typically the organizations that I work with, when it's just a check the box exercise, it's typically because it's not the fault of the practitioner, but it's the model that has failed us, right? Because this traditional experience management model, it taught us an important thing on how to listen to customers and quite frankly respond, right? Closing the loop is in there as well. But it never really elevated into really becoming the system in which your organization works, which is what CEOs care about is business impact. And so most of the organizations that I experience this with, they've never shown more than insights, which is why no one cares about it. Is that what you're seeing as well? Or would you say it's even deeper than that?
You can look at it at different levels. At the top level, it is the matter if the CEO doesn't believe in it, or the whole C level, the rest of the organization will never fully pull up and deliver results. So it has to come from the top. However, it will only come from the top if indeed you show them business impact, if you show ROI. So at the end of the day, look, we need to have people who are willing, skilled, and able. This is not rocket science, but how do I ensure willingness? In the most companies, if I tell somebody you should do right for the customer, he says, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to, but I'm sorry, my Christmas bonus, my KPIs, my career development depends on me delivering this TPS report to my boss tomorrow, not on making customers happy. So you have to have that whole system cascading from the top. And I say that the starting point is to have one singular KPI that actually forces all the departments to work together on this topic of customer experience. How do you get to that one KPI? By proving that this is the KPI that drives our profitability. And the companies that I see that are doing well are the ones that have, for instance, said NPS or some other customer satisfaction number is part of our overall top 3 OKRs or KPIs or whatever. I know you're very critical about NPS. I'm critical about NPS being used wrongly. It's the best hammer in the world, but all those idiots who are trying to use it like a wrench or a screwdriver or whatever, they're destroying the value of it. It's just part of your toolbox. But if you have this top-down, and I know of 2 really big German insurance companies that are doing it right. They say it starts with, we have proven that moving our NPS, measured in the right places, by 1 point increases our profitability by, I'm not going to say the exact number, but somewhere between 10 and 20 million net profit per year in Germany. That's a starting point. And then you can start building down from there. Said, okay, so what do we need? How do we convince the people? By touching them in the heart. Hey, isn't it cool to be customer-centric? And touching them in the head. Look, this helps the company to become better and it helps you in your career. Yeah. And then give them the right tools. And finally, the enablement, give them the right empowerment or enablement. Because most people I know don't get up in the morning and says, you know what, today I'm really going to piss off a couple of customers. No, they do that because they're forced into it. So give them the power to make choices to change things for the better for customers.
Yeah, agree with you. And I am a critic of NPS, right? I'm outspoken about it. Everyone knows that. I've compared it to a drug cartel. But at the same time, I'm heavily critical on it when it's only used as a metric. To your point, if you were truly leveraging NPS, which was built to be a system, not just a standalone metric, which is the inner and outer loop, I would give you a high five. Right? Because that means you're fundamentally responding to customers, resolving their issues, and you're learning from what is causing that friction, right? You're doing that root cause analysis with the customer live, essentially. And then the outer loop, of course, now is how do we fundamentally redesign that policy or friction, whatever it may be, in order to deliver better experiences. When I see companies who are doing that, I'll give you a high five. Because you're operating the system in which it was meant, really what it was built. But to your point, Most of the time, it's a checkbox that says, hey, we have an NPS score. And that's what it was when I first started leading CX at Aaron's. I mean, our CEO was like, look, I know we have an NPS. I don't know if it's good or not. I've never seen a comment from a customer. I don't even know what our customers are telling us.
And may I add a second bugbear?
Yeah.
And again, about the screwdriver versus the hammer, because NPS is a great relationship question. It is absolute bullshit to ask this question after a contact center interaction.
Yes.
And that's where it's being used all the time. No, that's where you ask customer effort score or customer expectation score. And this blindly going into this one direction and having a hammer and seeing nails everywhere, and that's where it goes wrong.
And I think to add on to that, right? Because I even saw it at Aaron's, is we wanted to say, hey, we were very customer centric, and our CEO wanted to get behind it. So, of course, we set a benchmark on NPS. So even our stores, instead of doing a relationship, they wanted NPS at every touch point that we asked. So it's all to your point, transactional. And to me, it was like, well, this is such bullshit, because if a customer was late on their payment at Aaron's and we had to go return the merchandise and we did a return survey, how do you think they're going to answer that? We just took your bed set away from your kid, but how likely are you to recommend a friend or family member?
Yeah.
Right. So
Pointless.
I think to your point, there was just so much misuse and abuse of it, where it really has, in my mind, handcuffed the progression of the discipline. Not NPS itself, the way it was utilized or not utilized.
Yeah, and mind you, I see companies where they use the CES, the customer effort score, in a similarly handcuffing way. It is about, again, at the bottom, you need the right insights procured in the right way to drive action, but that action will only come if we get that support from the top, if we get a clear mandate. If the CEO doesn't show, look, when push comes to shove, because that's, for instance, one of the biggest problems we have, and I'm sure you agree with that, is, for instance, quarterly reporting philosophy, because CX initiatives often, almost always, take much longer than 3 months to bear fruit. As long as you entirely focus on the 3-month results, as a CEO, as a C-team, as a C-level, you will never drive concrete and practical CX improvements. So you need to give that longevity, you need to get that leash, let loose the leash for the organization to actually do, because in most cases, the people in the organization know perfectly well what needs to be done. You probably see that also as a consultant. Sometimes they're bringing you in with desperation in their eyes. Can you please tell them? Because they won't believe me.
Give us a third-party voice. Absolutely. I think so. So Stefan, we really think about kind of that check the box exercise, right? There's a lot of listeners who would probably resonate and say, that's my organization. What's the first player tip you have for them to really start to change the mindset within the organization?
The number one starting point has to be ROI, show the ROI. But how to do that? I mean, look up on my website. I have articles, I have presentations, anything about it. The biggest mistake that many make about ROI is to make it too complex. Start with a very simple model. And again, you can find that on our website. We share that. We have created an absolutely simple model that we applied it in 80 companies by now. And the point here is, it's not wrong. It's not a perfect number, but the mistake many companies make is that they try to create perfection. And then you end up with a McDonald's of consulting who spends 5 million on creating the perfect number, and then everybody gives up. Well, it's a couple of days' work to get that basic model. And with that, you go to finance, and then you go to the CEO, say, look, a happy customer is typically worth X, and an unhappy customer is not only worth less, but an unhappy customer costs us money. That's the baseline of that thing. And now we have a base of, So it's not about being Disney and being wonderful. It's about, we're losing cold, hard cash with every unhappy customer. Let's talk.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I think sometimes we over-engineer what we think about the ROI. And I think the other pieces that I've seen is, and what you're saying is, it's ROI that can be found on the P&L, right? Too often I see practitioners who say, let me get the ROI on the platform. So what was the increase in response rate? And they talk about more about program health than true, like, results into the business. And I've recently we've been doing this study with 100 retailers globally, and we look at the compounding cost of customer friction. With one organization, we looked at it on a T12, trailing 12 months, $270 million that it's cost them on compounding friction that they haven't. They spend $180 million on customer acquisition cost. So just fix your shit, and then you wouldn't have to spend so much on CAC. Stefan, what's player tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is, at the end of the day, empower your frontline. You know that as well.
Yep.
We know all the beautiful examples from Ritz-Carlton, but also from telcos, for instance, Swiss Telecom. Any agent has up to 2,000 Swiss francs, which is roughly $2,000, in freedom to apply to make customers happy. And why is this such an important tip? Because it is counterintuitive to many people. Oh, no, they'll abuse it. No, they won't. The biggest challenge you have in companies like this is pushing them to actually do it.
Yeah.
This, of course, comes from, if you know that for Swiss Telecom, the differential between an unhappy and a happy customer is about $5,000, it's worth it to spend something on them. So give your frontline the power to make the difference and listen to them. Because also when we're talking about voice of the customer programs, we get, can we do start NPS or whatever? I said, okay. How about we talk to the agents? Why would we do that? Companies who have tens of thousands of agents who know exactly on a day-to-day basis. I think I already slipped into tip number 3, but
Go for it. Run with it.
They know where customers hurt. They know where it goes wrong. Ask them, would you recommend our products? eNPS is often done, would you recommend working here? Yeah, fine, important, let HR do that. But ask them, would you recommend the products? We had a German direct insurer where 37% or something of the agents said something along the lines, well, I did recommend it to my friends and now they don't talk to me anymore. It will not surprise you that that insurer is not in business anymore.
Look, I think these are 2 fantastic player tips, right? Because one, the empowerment piece, and it comes down to decisions. And I know we're not going to talk about AI at all, but a lot of this is about designing decision making, right? And giving them the empowerment to do that. But I'll give you this story I'll never forget, and you probably see this all the time. When I was at Aaron's, our executive leaders like to do a lot of quarterly town halls, right? Where they bring in our store managers and regional managers. And a lot of it is they just want to hear from them. What are the challenges that you're facing every day? What can we do about it? How can we make your life easier? And I remember our last stop was in Salt Lake City. We were flying back on the company jet. And all the executives were like, man, this is such incredible information. Like, we should do this more often. And I looked at my CEO and I said, well, how would you like to just have a steady stream of daily feedback from our employees about what's working, what's not working? And he's like, that would be incredible. How do we do that? And I'm like, it's really simple. I can do that. I can facilitate it. And then guess what? We won't have to get on the company jet and fly all over the United States. We can save quite a bit of money just by doing that. And it blew his mind that that was an option.
And let me give you my final tip, if I may, and it's actually linked to this. Nothing will ever change in your company if you don't change the KPIs. We all know the culture eats strategy for breakfast. Sorry, KPIs eat strategy and culture. Most KPIs in most companies have grown cancerous over the years because they kept piling on and piling on. You know, the K stands for key. I give you contact centers that have 40 KPIs instead of 3. But also, KPIs determine your career path. If you fulfill your KPIs, so if your KPIs don't say do something good for the customer, nothing will happen. And to make the link to point 3, who are the best, for instance, when we're talking about customer KPIs? Get your frontline in there. We looked at a big global contact center for a car company where they had 44 KPIs or something. And we started a Kill the KPIs program with the agents. So you tell us which of these KPIs do not help the company, do not help you, or do not help the customer. And you'd be surprised that 80% of all KPIs do not help anybody. They have cancerously grown because somebody thought more analysis is better. Let the frontline help you determine which ones to kill.
Yeah, absolutely. Stefan, this has been such an incredible conversation. If any of our listeners want to go deeper with you about any of the topics or moving their from a checkbox program to a true strategy, where can they find you?
Obviously on LinkedIn, I'm very easy to find, or directly to our website where again a lot of the material is available.
Yeah.
FutureLab.
Yeah, perfect. And for all of our listeners, we'll grab the link even to a couple of the ROI pieces that Stefan was talking about and link it in the newsletter in the show notes as well. Stefan, thank you for coming to the hot seat. Come back again soon.
My pleasure, and hope to see you soon.